All right. Welcome, everyone. It's wonderful to have you all here for this panel discussion between faculty and students about cooperative learning here at Wentworth, hands-on learning. This is the third in our fall series of the Guilt-Free Book Club with the theme of hands-on learning. And it's just been a really rich series of conversations. We started off with some theory, reading a book called Transforming Learning Through Tangible Instruction, The Case for Thinking with Things by Dr. Sarah Kuhn. And we had a discussion with her directly and then a workshop with her as well on campus. And that was a hands-on experiential workshop where we actually played with embodied cognition and built things and made our thinking visible and tangible. So that was really exciting. And we're concluding the hands-on learning theme this morning with a really exciting panel discussion. Excuse me, co-sponsored by Atlas, the Advancing Teaching, Learning, and Scholarship Center, and Co-ops and Careers in celebration of Co-ops and Careers' 50th anniversary, 50 years of cooperative learning here at Wentworth. And just incredibly dovetailing with Wentworth's mission. Obviously, in our mission, we say we are a hands-on, experiential, and cooperative approach to education. So, really excited to hear how our faculty are bringing that to life in the classroom and how our students are experiencing that and the conversation between what students are experiencing on co-ops and what they're learning in the classroom and how those things can serve one another and help support everyone's growth and success. So it's been a great pleasure to put this program together with my colleagues from Co-ops and Careers. I'm not sure if I properly introduced myself either. I'll go back and do that. My name is Josh Luckens, and I am an instructional designer with Atlas Center, which I mentioned before. And I will turn things over to my co-ops colleague, Jaime McAllister-Grande.
Thanks, Josh. Good morning, everyone. So excited to see you here. We are here to hear from students as well as faculty about the ways in which co-op and classroom intersect with each other. And the reason why I reached out to Josh saying, could we have a book club discussion about this is because I've heard some great examples of students saying to me, oh, I had this great project that's perfect for my resume. Or I've had a faculty member share, I do this in my class specifically because I know it helps with co-ops. And I thought it would be great if we could share some of the outstanding examples where that's happening in the hopes that it will just grow ever more. We do have a document that we created that you can use during today's session. I'm going to drop it in the chat. Hopefully, you have access to open it. It has our agenda for today, it has some resources on it, and it also on page 2 has a spot where you can jot down any key ideas, questions, takeaways you have from the conversation that we're having. So, with that, I would like to turn it over to another member of our dream team here, Ria Kalinowski.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ria Kalinowski, and I'm the Assistant Director of Advising and Career Education in the Co-op's office. And I'm looking forward to the discussion. I'll turn it over to Auryn.
Thank you, Ria. So, yes, I'm Auryn Edwards. It's great to see you all here, and thank you for carving sort of a bit of time in your day to be here. I'm really excited for this conversation and to kind of hear the mix of perspectives in the room. So, as it was kind of alluded to earlier, we wanted to kind of help frame this discussion. So we wanted to find something that really captured the heart and impact of cooperative education. And so thankfully, we were able to find a great publication from the Co-op and Internship Association. So it's about 80 pages long. So unless you've got a strong coffee and a long train ride, maybe skip the full read. But thankfully, we were able to kind of pull some of the key highlights. So the central idea is that co-op experiences don't just prepare students for industry, they influence the classroom and the way we speak and the way we teach. So students come back from co-op with new energy, they've used the tools, seen the systems, and now they want to know how their learning sort of connects to the real world. So as we kind of dive into the discussion, I'd love for us to think about that shift, sort of how co-op changes, not just what students learn, but how we teach. So with that, I'll turn you back to Josh.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Auryn, Ria, and Jamie, for being such fantastic partners in putting together this program. As those in the meeting have seen, I put in the chat the links to both of those documents. And for anyone who is watching this on recording on video, I'm just going to share really briefly just to show you what we're looking at. So this is the pre-read resource that has those links to what Auryn was alluding to, the Cooperative Education and Internship Association magazines, a little bit from the literature, indicating how students returning from co-ops approach their learning differently. They come back with sharper questions, deeper curiosity, and higher expectations for relevance. There's a bunch of information here, reflective questions, so I definitely encourage you to have a look at this. One more quote I'll just share to frame our discussion is that the experiential classroom is no longer hypothetical. Students have lived through the system's tools, failures, and wins we're talking about. Teaching at a co-op school isn't just about preparing them for industry, it's about co-teaching with industry. So I'll be curious to hear what our students and faculty have to say about that. And then this is our plan for today. And this document is open for everyone to edit, as Jamie alluded to. So we have the resources here, the program with everyone's names. So if you're curious about someone, you're more than welcome to reach out to them and follow up some of these questions we talked about, and then a discussion space. So if you have any questions, ideas, takeaways, feel free to put them here. We'll monitor this space as well as the Zoom chat, and there will of course be time at the end of each panel for everyone in our audience to ask questions of our students and faculty as well. So feel free to put questions in there, or just raise your hand or pop in at the end. So with no further ado, I'll turn things over to Jamie to kick off our student panel.
All right. So I think one of the most important voices in this conversation are the students who are experiencing life in the classroom and then life out on the co-op. So I would like to ask a few questions, and I've invited 4 students here to respond to them. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves before they answer their question. So our first question, which will go to Grace, is if you could tell us, Grace, a little bit about what projects you did in your classes that translated well to your resume or to your co-op interview and search process.
Thank you, Jamie. Hi, my name is Grace Arena. I am a business management student with a concentration in project management. I'm currently a senior and I'm completing my second co-op at Wentworth in the marketing and communications department. And my first co-op was as a human resources project assistant at JC Canestraro, a mechanical engineering company based in Waltham. So I would say right off the bat, I completed a project in technology acquisitions with Dr. Greenberg, who is actually in this meeting as well. And that project was finding a new learning management system for Wentworth. At the time, our contract with Brightspace was going to be expiring. This translated really well onto my resume. It was a great project. It was a class-wide project. We were separated into groups and we each took part of this 7-stage project process. And then we all took each other's information from those different parts, compiled it, and then presented that research at the end of the semester. It was great to learn about RFQs, RPIs, really connecting with stakeholders, surveying students, and learning that a learning management system is more than just a place to get assignments. It's also great for archiving information and documents for professors and students alike. My second one was actually this past summer semester with Professor Jill Kearney, and it was a class-wide project again, but the entire class was working on this one together. I was one of the leaders of the group, and we had to create our own fundraiser for a nonprofit of our choice. So we chose the Greater Boston MSPCA. Many of you may have seen we had posters around campus. We posted on LinkedIn, and we connected. We used our personal networks, and we also hosted a fundraiser on the quad one day. And we ended up raising over $900 for the MSPCA. This translated really well onto my resume and in interviews, being able to talk about what I learned from that process as being a leader and having to organize my peers to make something happen and find a result. It taught me a lot about finding my strengths, about having to pivot when something went wrong in a project, and also just organizing others. And as I mentioned, I'm currently in marketing and communications, and such a big part of that was getting the word out to other students, professors, people in different offices on campus, and even people I knew personally. So I'll pass it over to Mario to continue answering his part of the question.
Hi, so my name's Mario. I'm a junior right now, and I've done 3 co-ops in the past, and I have one more. I'm looking for my 4th one sometime probably in the summer. Done 2 as an estimator, as assistant project manager, and 1 as a prefab worker. And I say like in my major, I'm in construction. It means a little bit more to have that kind of experience, because a lot of the times when you're coming out of school, you don't exactly have a lot of experience or knowledge of what actually goes on, because what happens in the classroom is just a small portion of whatever actually goes on in the field. So just having an opportunity to have a co-op is something that's really like game changing, especially now. I'd say this semester I had just done my whole summer where I was in an office estimating, and now this semester I'm taking a class of estimating. And it's different to be able to just come in and say, oh wait, I know how to do this. Even though I might not be a pro at it, just having a little bit more experience or like knowledge of the general concept of estimating makes it a lot more helpful, a lot more helpful to be able to do the assignment or whatever. Like if I need to understand something or a concept, like for a quiz we just took, it's just mostly finding area or whatever. That stuff's it's fairly easy now because of all the experience I've had doing it. And especially with last semester I took building systems. It was another class that taught me a lot about the MEP and just how to estimate that, all the above. And it's a lot different when you have some kind of tool or resource that can help you be able to grow outside of the classroom. Because while the teacher can only do so much in that semester, they need some kind of assistance from the outside world to be able to teach students properly. And I think that's really what co-op does best, with just giving students that extra boost of knowledge to be able to be better in their career and to have a head start on other people who aren't exactly doing the same path.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mario. I can tell you all have been out on co-op because you're using lots of acronyms, the RFIs and the MEPs. We probably should have had like a decoder at the end of the document, I'm realizing. So our second question that I'd like to ask our other 2 students is, and we'll go to Aidan first for this one. I'd love to hear, Aidan, about how the learning that you did in the classroom showed up when you were on co-op, on your first co-op experience.
Thanks, Jamie. Hi, everyone. My name's Aidan Lopez. I'm a 4th year computer information systems student. I've completed 1 co-op already at Harvard University. I was working as a technical support engineer, basically just like working for the tech support teams, making sure like users in the Harvard community can kind of like always connected to the internet and just like get their work in like on reliably, kind of. I would say during my interview at Harvard, well, I helped with a lot of large projects. I think the most notable one was where we were refreshing a bunch of faculty staff their laptops for work. We were refreshing like various different departments. After deployment of like all these different types of laptops, we got an influx of reports from users that we had refreshed that their computers weren't set up correctly and they couldn't like access the network, and because of that they couldn't do their work. They couldn't go to class and like connect to the internet and participate in class. It was affecting a wide variety of users. And to kind of, what helped me is in solving these kinds of issues, a lot of the theory that I learned in some of my networking classes and like network security classes, I learned a lot of like core concepts that beforehand they really didn't connect with me because it's kind of just like theory without like any experience to kind of back it to like make it make sense. Uh, but when I was trying to solve these issues, like remembering back in like my classes, like how devices communicate on a network and how different devices are like separated from each other, it helps me and my team like kind of figure these issues out. It bunch of issues with like IP addresses not being segmented the right way, and devices not on the network, so they couldn't connect to the Wi-Fi. They couldn't get their, things working. But we discovered a lot of these issues were stemming from issues like that, and from there it was kind of just like backtracking, just like getting in touch with like all these different users and making sure that we can correct the issues that were made, and getting everybody back and working. And it taught me a lot about like I guess just like how the like theory of like classroom knowledge can like be actually applied to like the real world to kind of diagnose real issues. Because for me, I learning a lot of the stuff I was learning in some of my classes, it didn't always make sense to me. It's kind of just like if you hear it, it goes through one ear out the other. You just don't really take it in. Getting to apply it in the workforce, it made it a lot more applicable for me.
Awesome. Thank you, Aidan. And our other responder to that question is the one and only Morgan Dennison.
Hi, like she said, my name is Morgan Dennison. I'm currently a junior majoring in mechanical engineering and minoring in manufacturing here at Wentworth. I've completed one co-op at Integra in Austin, Texas, where I was a project engineer. I worked on the commissioning and constructing of a $500 million data center, and I will be returning to that same company for my spring co-op for a $1.6 billion data center in Georgia. To answer the question, in my co-op experience, my classes at Wentworth definitely prepared me for the co-op. So much of what I learned in the classroom, especially in my manufacturing and circuit theory courses, showed up in the field. For example, my job as a project engineer working in commissioning engineering was to fully understand and be able to test all of these complex electrical and mechanical systems to ensure the data center doesn't go down because they would lose lots of money. Another great example I always like to bring up is our engineering freshman showcase project that I think all engineering students do when they take first year engineering. It's a great project where students get to demonstrate their learning, and there has not been a single interview or anybody like I've talked to that hasn't asked about it. I made a motorized arm brace for people with ALS, and it's so relevant that's something that will always be in my resume, at least until I'm in the field. And this is important because understanding how mechanical and electrical systems work together helped me to understand and work on both the electrical and mechanical backup systems we used in the data halls, like generators, PMDCs, chillers, and IDF rooms where the fiber goes through. Those are probably a little bit too complicated, but it's a lot of specific materials that I needed to learn. The hands-on projects also made a big difference when actually testing versus learning. Like Aidan said, sometimes things just go in one ear and out the other, especially in class when these professors are talking about these really complicated things. So it really helps to be able to do in-person projects in your classes so that you're not as confused when you're in the field. Finally, when I was building a pneumatic engine and working through CAD designs in my manufacturing courses, that taught me how to think through design decisions and communicate them clearly, which is so important because one miscommunication could deter the project for weeks. So learning this in my classes, it made me feel capable of learning all these new softwares like Procore and Bluebeam on site because Wentworth taught me applicable softwares prior, and it made the transition from classroom to industry feel really natural. It made all these acronyms and common co-op tasks like RFI, submittals, and punch list items less daunting when I got there.
Thank you, Morgan. All right, so our final question for all 4 student panelists is that magical question of what was it like going back to the classroom after you were on co-op? And I'd love to hear from all 4 of our student panelists for this one. I think, Morgan, we will start with you to kick it off.
Sorry, my computer wouldn't let me unmute. when I came back from the classroom, I was kind of scared because I kind of really got into this group where I really loved co-op, and I was like, wow, I wish I could just be graduated now and be working in the field and not have to go home. But coming back made me appreciate how much my classes really connect to the real world. I could look at what we were learning and see exactly where I fit in on a job site or a project, and I find myself in my classes now, like when I learn something new, I'm like, oh wow, I'm probably going to use that when I go back in the spring, and I'm making mental note of that. Overall, my co-op gave me perspective. It made me more engaged in class and more confident that what we learn here genuinely prepares us for the work that we'll be doing after graduation. I know that at least for me, I definitely had that fear that maybe I'm not smart enough or it's too hard, but my co-op gave me the confidence to know that I will succeed in the industry and the real world after graduation. I found myself being way more confident in actually participating in classes. I didn't second guess myself on exams as much because I knew I could do it. Some things that I think could be improved just based on my experience coming back would be related softwares like I mentioned earlier. Sure, we learned SolidWorks, that's really helpful for engineering students. However, I find that every single co-op member that shows up to the career fair or in interviews or just networking, they always ask about certain softwares that I don't necessarily have access to. One example being Revit. I know design students have access to Revit and they can really learn this, but engineering students, we don't get that same education on it, even just an introductory course. And I find that a lot of co-ops are turning away students because they don't have any knowledge on what Revit is. They've never seen it. They've never touched it. Yeah, that's everything.
Awesome, Morgan. Thank you. I just jotted down your mention of the potential use of Revit on the engineering side in our discussion area of the document. Thank you for that. I think we're going to go to Aidan next.
So going back to the classroom after my first co-op, it felt a lot different. I kind of, like Morgan said, I kind of just got into like a groove of like, it's very different, like actually working in the field rather than just like sitting in class. But it felt good coming back. During my internship, I was constantly troubleshooting real issues for faculty, staff, students, just solving their kinds of issues. And it helped me learn to think kind of like on my feet, just in the moment, and communicate more clearly with people some people who were technical, some people who weren't so as much. It helped me realize, I guess, how much IT is just as much about people as well the technology that supports it all. When I was back in class, I found myself connecting concepts from my lectures more. It was just, I guess, more easily applicable for me. I've encountered a lot of issues where it's how do you configure networks and ensure connectivity is constant and remains that way, and just how to manage IT assets. I've taken a lot of courses in those things, but I didn't really, without any way to meaningfully apply it, I didn't really take it in. But getting to apply it on the getting to apply it at a job made it more applicable for me. So it's inspired me to kind of just I guess apply myself more to my classwork, and if that makes sense. Just I can apply it to things, so it makes a lot more sense for me. It makes learning a lot more tangible instead of just learning a bunch of theory that I'm never going to use. So I would say it's been a really good experience going on co-op, and yeah, it's been great coming back.
Thanks, Aidan. Thanks for calling out that sort of meaningful application of knowledge and how that really made you want to engage more in your learning. It's a really cool cyclical pattern there. And Grace, let's hear from you.
Thank you, Jamie. First off, I would definitely say I agree with Morgan and Aidan on being able to connect classroom concepts to real life problems, topics, and job examples. I would definitely say I really liked coming from a 40-hour work week to 20 or so hours of classes. I had much more free time. And I definitely found that I could tailor my learning experience more to what I was interested in from my co-ops. For example, I'm in marketing now. I was in human resources before. So for some of my more elective courses, I can find things that are related to the jobs that I'm interested in. I would definitely say one thing I noticed is that when applying and interviewing for roles such as marketing or project management roles, there were a lot of modern, newer softwares that they wanted us to have skills in that I haven't learned in my classes. For example, marketing, they want you to have a lot of experience in InDesign, Canva, Photoshop, Lightroom, things like that. Project management, they'll want you having experience in like Jira or Microsoft Project. And then I also heard a lot of Power BI or Salesforce. So it definitely made me realize that, if I want to add those things to my resume, I might have to learn them on my own. We've learned very like basic Microsoft computer applications here at Wentworth, but I would definitely love to, again, for those like marketing ones, anything for like photo editing or creating campaigns, I think those would also be great to incorporate into classroom.
Thanks, Grace. I jotted down a few of your software suggestions in the document, but I don't think I caught all of them, so feel free to drop the ones I missed in there. And to wrap it up, I'd like to ask Mario to share what it was like for him to return to the classroom after co-op.
So for me, coming back to the classroom, it felt like a break because like Grace said, working a 40-hour week, getting up every morning to go out there and be there by a certain time and then coming back in traffic. It's a bit of a like it's a lot. Now once I see why adults complain a lot about they're always tired. And just coming back to class made it a bit easier. It was like, okay, my schedule's a lot lighter now and the classes aren't they weren't then my classes right now aren't too hard. But I think one big thing I really noticed a lot about coming back to the classroom, I'd say was like the uses of programs. Like right now we're using on-screen takeoff for a lot of the projects or classes that we're doing. And at every single co-op or person I've talked to, no one's ever used on-screen in the real field. And they all use Bluebeam predominantly, and it makes sense because Bluebeam is it's a pretty good program to use for a lot of construction things. I really would like to see that be taught because I feel like that better prepare a lot of students to be able to go out into the field and create a more smoother transition rather than having to relearn a whole new program to get there. Because I already got to my co-op knowing how to use Bluebeam, and that's what made it a lot easier for me. But some other people might not have that same experience or that knowledge, which would probably waste a lot of their time at the co-op just having to learn the basics of it. And probably the employer wouldn't be able to like sit down and walk you through the entire program like that. So I think just having that as a change would be better. But also it when I got back, I feel like now I wouldn't say like I'm lazy, but I'm a lot more laid back because it's like, oh, I've already done a co-op. I have a company that will take me back. I I should finish out my degree, but it's like, oh, like I'm not too worried about it, I'd say. Like I still fully plan on passing my classes with great grades because my mom does not play that. But I feel like now it's like, oh, okay, this is it's serious. Now I'm not thinking of, oh, I just need to make it to the next semester. Now I'm thinking about what am I going to do for the future. So I feel like after you come back from a co-op, your goals and values change and they shift. You look for things differently. Like now, what I'm looking for this semester, it's something completely different from what I was last year. And it's like you kind of get into a mindset where you've grown up, like it finally hits you that this is the real world. Like you're an adult now and you got to make adult decisions. And I think at first it can be a little bit like scary or daunting, but once you get accustomed to it, it's a much needed change in your mindset.
Thank you, Mario. I don't know if you saw me smiling while you were answering. That was awesome. All right. Well, I'm really grateful to our four students for being here and sharing their perspective. If you have questions you'd like to ask them, you're welcome to drop them in the chat or drop them in the document. We might also have a little time at the end for some open discussion, but I think at this moment, we're going to turn it over to Ria to lead our faculty panel portion.
Thanks, Jamie. So we have a couple questions for our faculty members to answer. And I'm going to have Saurav Basnet lead off with the question, how are we making space in our classrooms for the real world?
Okay, hi Ria. I'm faculty at ECE, so I mostly teach electronic engineering and power renewable engineering as well. So when I started here 2019, and then I started teaching first year classes. So then I started giving them the kit, it's Arduino kit, and I encouraged them to, okay, we can work on this, that you can do so many different projects. And I used to give them a video, very good video, like there are like 60 videos, and that kit goes with all those 60 videos. And thanks to our dean and Professor McAllister, we had like we have 30, 40 of them in our lab, so they can loan it for an entire semester. And I did see change on them. I did see they find a good co-op that helped them find a better job afterwards, right? That was for the first year engineering. And then from that, I realized that, oh, the students are really interested. They're really interested in space. So I started the PicoSat Club. And then after PicoSat, I see that students are getting job in Deep Space Company, MITRE, MIT Lincoln Lab, So, and I encourage them, even in classes, I encourage them to write published papers, because we are competing with big universities in Boston. So I always encourage them to have some colors in the resume, that is publishing papers. Usually undergraduates don't publish papers. So if I'm a hiring manager, if I see paper in the resume, I would say, oh, this guy must be hardworking, because writing a paper is not easy. So that helped them a lot. And in my I teach analog circuit, that's a electronic class. There I give them project. Like right now, they did they developed the temperature controller using analog devices. So I literally in class asked them to put this line in a resume, because I know when they go for interview, they'll ask that question. Okay, what did you do in this project? Because when I used to interview for my work, I always used to look for any project they have done, because that shows they know how to do things, And now, like, I'm teaching renewable classes, so it's very difficult to have all the softwares in a school. So what I do is I try to use trial version. And some of them like a 1-month trial version, like Helioscope, they use for PV industry, ETAP so I get, like, sometimes the companies are kind enough to give us license for a 6-month, but even those trial versions with limited knowledge of those softwares, they get the co-op, right? And I have a computer engineering student, they take my renewable energy class, and they find job in power system, because they have used their software, rather than they find job in computer engineering, or because if I'm hiring people, look for hands-on experience, right? And I also teach electrical building system, where I teach NEC code, all the requirement codes. I have not used Revit yet. I use AutoCAD. When I did my engineering, I used AutoCAD, so I'm more comfortable with AutoCAD. Maybe I have to learn Revit to use Revit in class, but those things help. And usually, what I tell my students is, yeah, you can get 4.0, but you also need to have a project. 4.0 alone will not give you a job. That doesn't mean you don't have to get 4.0, but you need to have some project with you. And I encourage them to join clubs. So I'm IEEE club advisor, right? And we go for different competitions. Those things really help. And I see they succeed, and they get a higher pay than me. For first salary is higher than mine. So I get happy with that, So I think it's hands-on is really, really important. And I see that in my students. And yeah, and then usually those students will help find co-op for other students. Like those who graduated, I call them, okay, if you have any co-op, let me know. And they hire our students, That's really, it's really good.
Thanks, Saurav. That's awesome. It sounds like there's a lot of great projects and great experience that they're learning in the classroom. And I've heard from employers that they really value seeing those projects on their resume and talking about those in interviewing to see how they've applied the skills that they're learning. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, and now we're going to have Hollis Greenberg and Michael Mozill answer the question, how do co-ops reshape the purposes of our syllabi, our lectures, and our assignments?
Michael, do you want me to go first?
Go ahead, Hollis.
So Grace got one of my projects from tech acquisition. She spoke very well about that project. I think regarding this question, we're trying to give the most real world experiences possible to our students for multiple reasons, right? For their resume, for the experience that they're ready to do the job when they get the job. One of the projects that I'm doing right now, actually, Mario would be interested in it. He'll see it this summer when he takes advanced estimating for construction. My students that are enrolled in management information systems are building for the advanced estimating class in construction management. So business students and CIS students are building this for construction management students, ways to create detailed estimates of the build project they're doing. So it really gives the business students and the CIS students that experience of what goes into an estimate. I've done it both ways. I've done it from a high level and had them create an access database where they had to make changes due to inflation and location, because it costs more to build something in Boston than it does in Amherst, and get that big overall number. And then we've also done the lower level estimates in Excel and made a very user-friendly worksheet that would prompt the students, that give them drop downs, would let them check their work by clicking on a button and seeing how close they are to the right numbers. So that's kind of a neat experience just for students to understand the industry and it turns out our stuff actually helps construction managements understand the subject matter better, and they actually perform better on exams by using these models. And by the way, our access overall number actually performed better than most industry standards for tools. So that was pretty exciting to see that in the classroom, that my students did better than the industry is doing. But as we teach them these skills, some skills are to make them better students, some skills are to make them better employees. I've had students just skill-based, like reach out to me, like, it's so great that you taught me how to do a pivot table. I do pivot tables all the time in my job, and I get emails later about pivot tables. I wrote actually a running case in MindTap for Cengage for our systems analysis and design. Well, we use it in systems analysis and design, but it's for their textbook, their Cengage's textbook. And the way I wrote this case is every chapter, the students get emails from their boss, and it asks them to do things. So it's not like they just get a laundry list of here's a to-do list, do number 1, now do number 2. They get all these different requests coming at them, and they have to look in the fake company website or in the fake company repository, or they have to do some research outside. And then I throw into the emails, hey, how was your weekend? What's going on? Did you catch that game last night? So they have to figure out what's important in the email and what's not important, because that's a real world situation, right? Figuring that out, like, oh, I can ignore how the weekend was and how the movie was And oh, this is another thing I got to add to my to-do list, but I got 3 more emails from my boss, so I have to kind of put it together and figure out what needs to get done and how I'm going to do it and where I'm going to find this information. And then in class, we actually also have the students as a project go out to a real small business, find a pain point for them, and design a system that would solve that pain point. They don't actually implement it, they don't actually build it, but they do everything to understand the problem fully, design the database, what the user interface should look like, and all of that. So as much as possible, I think we try to find real world examples so that they can be successful. And I think with what's interesting, I think about Wentworth's mission is really to have our students ready on day one, right? We want to have practical experience. Yes. Do we take them to conferences? Absolutely, because maybe some of them do want to get into research or they want to get into an industry that research is important. I brought students to conferences, but I think the vast majority of our students are getting a job after graduation and they want to be successful in that job. They want to understand it. And Wentworth grads are known to get busy on day one. Like doesn't take them 3 weeks to figure out where the bathroom is. Michael, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Thank you, Hollis. I agree with everything everything that Hollis just told you, so I don't need to repeat it. Excuse me, but I also am hands-on wherever I can. Just to pick one course, which Aidan is in now and Grace has already completed, is Managing Communications. Everything I keep reading is that employers are looking for students with soft skills and particularly in communication. So we spend a lot of time on different means of communication, mostly through different kinds of presentations, but also some writing too. But the overall theme in all of my courses is hands-on, but making students, teaching them things about how to comport themselves in business. So making sure they show up on time, as I've got a strict attendance and late policy. Make sure that they're coming to do the job. Aidan shouldn't know this, but on Wednesday, the first thing we're going to do on Wednesday is we're going to practice handshakes. Good professional handshakes. Look somebody square in the eye. Introduce yourself. Because these are things that students need to have if they're going to network events, if they're going to co-op and career fairs, and if they're going to be interviewing. The students are in groups and in this course, and they're given a chapter in the textbook, and they have 105 minutes to teach the chapter. They have the entire class, the entire session, and the assignment specifically states, I don't want a book report. Let's assume everybody's read the chapter. So make sure that make a list of all the things you hate in a lecture and make another list of all the things you love in a lecture. Don't do anything off the first list. Do things off the second list so that they've got a feel that they've done something that matters. And I have had students who have put this on their resume, and I encourage them to do this because it is a differentiator. I've had students come back and say, I got the job or I got the co-op because they needed someone who could communicate, and no one had done anything close to this. So we do a lot of that kind of stuff. We have an assignment where and some of you have been guinea pigs in this assignment. You've had a student walk into you and talk to you out of nowhere and ask you for a business card. Those are my students because they have to go talk to a stranger. And I encourage them to talk to a stranger at Wentworth rather than go on the green line because I don't want any responsibility for what happens. But the assignment is go into an office where you don't know anyone, where you've never had any connection, and walk in and introduce yourself professionally. Get a conversation going. Ask about their favorite book, their favorite movie, or their favorite song, just so you have something to talk about and something to report back to me. And you have to get a business card to show that you've actually done this. Unfortunately, I've had students who've given me some songs that there is no way in hell, because I know the person's no way in hell that would be their favorite song. And when I checked with them, I was right. They get smacked around for that too. But again, it's all about professional comportment. It's all about being able to do the things you have to do, and most importantly, differentiating yourself from the other Gen Z students who are sitting in the hallway waiting to be interviewed as well. What can you do that's different? So thank you, Hollis, and Ria, I turn it back to you.
Thanks, Michael. I'm really pleased to hear that the focus on those soft skills or transferable skills, the organization, the collaboration, just how to be in a professional environment. That's really great to hear. A lot of employers, yes, you're right, are absolutely looking for that.
Thank you.
All right, last one. Ashar Neyaz, if you could answer, how do you notice students change after returning from co-ops? That'd be great. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ashar Neyaz. I'm Assistant Professor of Cybersecurity and School of Computer and Data Science. So I would give a short answer to this. I feel like students they are more confident when returning from the co-op because they can at least connect to the concept that what we teach in the classroom. For example, we always say computers works on bits and bytes and all those things. And they, instead of just theoretically explaining to them all those things, once they go to the co-op, they understand how these bits and bytes actually connect. For example, we have something called IP address. We always say it's 32 bits in length, but what's this bits? It's zeros and one. It's just an on and off thing. So once you see that on your display, it gives you in decimal numbers, but actually everything is zeros and ones. So once they know this concept and how this thing works actually, then as Aidan was saying that he was troubleshooting this networking issue, then they know how to troubleshoot this perfectly for even for faculty, staffs, and everyone else who's involved in this thing. And of course, they get some career clarity as well. They want to know where they want exactly target when they actually get hired, like they want to be system engineer, they want to network engineer, they want to do some forensic stuff, etc., etc. And then again, as we all mentioned, like they become more professional. They have to show up on time. They have to be dressed accordingly. They have to have a strong problem solving mindset. They have to like talk in not in colloquial terms, mostly in professional terms. So that of course gives the sense of responsibility as well. So that's it from my side. Thank you.
That's great to hear. Thank you so much. Thank you from all of you faculty for sharing with us about the projects and the tasks that you're implementing in the classroom. I love hearing how it translates to students' resumes, to interviews, and to actually on the jobs. So thank you so much. I'm going to turn it back to Josh.
Right. Well, thank you so much to both our student and faculty panelists for sharing all of your experience and expertise. And I'd love to open the floor up to everyone in the room now to ask any questions you'd like of either our students or faculty or both. Feel free to simply unmute yourself and jump in, or if you want to throw a question in the chat, you're welcome to do so, or if you just want to offer a comment or reflection on something you heard that stuck out to you that you want to reinforce or offer a perspective on, the floor is open to everyone at this point to jump in.
Can I go ahead and ask a question? Okay, from the student panel, I want to ask, like, have you guys ever had any time crunch situation or time crunch assignment during the co-op, and do you have to solve a problem being like in a time crunch situation and your timeline or deadline is like for end of the day? Have you ever come across this kind of situation?
When I was working in the data centers, everything's very, very quick, and it's so new and niche that everything is sort of improvised on site. So it would often be within the hour that I would have to come up with a solution and send it to be reviewed. But yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question? So this is slightly off topic, and this has been really interesting for me. I work in co-op and careers as an employer relations specialist. So hearing from the academics and the professors and the students' experiences, this has been really great for me. I would love to ask the students, now that you've completed at least one co-op, is there anything you wish your employer would or could have done differently that may have made it more beneficial for you and for them? Something that I could potentially pass along to future employers?
I definitely think, I mean, my first co-op, I was on a very small team and they had more work. Frankly, they had more work than they had people for. So everyone was just very constantly like working on something. So oftentimes it would be difficult for me to ask for extra time to be taught something. So I definitely think even just having 1 or 2 days of structured training, and then I also had a very hard time setting up like one-on-ones because my manager was so busy. So definitely like asking for structured training if you just get like 1 or 2 days in there. And then one-on-ones, even if it's just like 30 minutes every 2 weeks to check in and get like the temperature of your role, how you're doing, and asking for things to learn.
Thank you.
I kind of agree with what Grace said because it kind of is like when you get to a co-op, you're just thrown into the fire and you kind of gotta put it out yourself or else you get burnt. Because a lot of times they don't have anybody to really sit down and teach you, so you have to teach yourself a lot. But some managers are really good at like giving you advice or tips or like having someone to help you out when you need the help. Like I know at the company I was working for, if I ever had questions, I could ask my manager, I could ask someone else who was also kind of above me. Just a lot of the coworkers to be able to give me insight on whatever I needed. So I think they sometimes do a really good job on having that, but like Grace said, there's a lot of times where it's really like a lot of work and it's just jam-packed schedules, and it's harder to find time to get advice. So I think that's one thing employers could try to work on because a lot of kids don't exactly know what they're doing when they come into a co-op.
Something my co-op really struggled with that I just wanted to throw in there really quickly is they were very new to coming to Wentworth and getting students there because they had never done that before, and they had absolutely no set co-op program. When we showed up there, they hired 15 students. They had a split between two sites, moved us 2,000 miles across the country, and they just offered us a lot of money and no guidance. And so when you got there, it seemed like a lot of the employees were like, well, what do we do with them? And it was more, I had to go and actively seek work, be like, I want to do this. I want to do this. And it was very, I know that they're improving this. They met with us, and they definitely seem to have a better system now, but maybe having a little bit of guidance, instead of moving us across the country with absolutely no idea what we're going to be doing would be very helpful.
Yeah, I imagine it would be very helpful. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you all. Those were great answers. Well, I know that we have both Alicia Saransvinsky, Director of Atlas, and Robin Beauchamp, Director of Co-ops and Careers, with us. So if either of you want to share any thoughts from your perspectives, this would be a great moment to do so.
I just want to thank everybody for the work that you put together for this panel today. It's very, very informative and confirms everything that we know about the value of cooperative education and how it impacts a student's learning. I can tell you that as someone who used to work in human resources, the difference between hiring someone with a degree and no work experience and a high GPA and a degree with work experience and a slightly less GPA, it's a no-brainer. So we also know that GPA is not a great indicator of career success. So that is one of the things that we also talk to employers about. Give people a chance, because we have seen those students that were typically maybe a C student come back and become B students or maybe even A-level students after they've completed a co-op. So again, I just want to thank everybody for all the work that you're doing and making cooperative education really a cornerstone of the Wentworth education. And I'm very proud to be part of that legacy. Alicia?
Thanks. I'm not sure what else I have to add. I'm just basking in this. Relatively new to Wentworth, and as I mentioned in the chat, we tend to be very behind the scenes and faculty facing. So it was so fantastic to hear from the students. But also, I don't usually get to talk to faculty about these pieces, the sort of experiential learning that they're focusing on in the classroom. So it was really great to hear from all of you. And I'll just echo what Robin said. Like this sort of highlights all the things we know that are good about experiential learning and how that impacts, not just career outcomes, but learning outcomes, sort of from an education perspective. So I'm really happy to be here, and I love the co-op program so much.
Well, thank you both. And before we wrap up, are there any other last comments or thoughts from any of our panelists or attendees that you'd like to share?
I just want to say thank you to Jamie and Josh and everyone who helped organize this. This was a great experience to be part of this and also hear from educators as well.
Thanks so much, Grace. Yeah, and thanks to you all. Thanks to our panelists. Thanks to our attendees. Thanks to my organizers and co-hosts. It's really been a wonderful experience. If you're interested in partnering with Atlas, you can always reach out to us at teach@wit.edu, and we'd be happy to consult with you or put together a program like this with you. So thanks again for being here, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Josh. Thanks for having us.
It's been a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.